Welcome into Inside Badger Hoops. Ira Bowman joined once again by head coach Andrew May. Coach May, it's great to have you on. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
On today's episode, after last week, you guys had a good week. You've had a great season, 2 wins last week. You finished 29-1 overall, 15-0 in conference play. Undefeated at home, 10-0, I believe, undefeated on true road games. It's been a phenomenal season for you guys, and I'd like to ask, what was your favorite part of that season?
Wow, favorite part of the regular season. There was lots of highlights. I'd say probably one of the most fun wins that we had. There's probably two. The at Indian Hills was super fun, super hard place to play. Guys don't win there very often. And I could tell because when we did win, everybody friends from across the country reaching out and said, coaches in the business said, man, that's so hard to win there. That's such a hard place to win. And so that was fun. And it was also the day before, or 2 days before that we were made, the #1 team in the country. So that was a, big game for our guys. It was lots of fun. So that one, and then, winning at CSI is always super hard. And so that one was pretty fun as well. So I don't know. The road games are definitely a blast, and our guys have really embraced that this season. But then, winning some really, really good games at home has been awesome. I mean, seeing our community come out and support the way it has been amazing.
Yeah, these games, this gym has been packed here at the Horne Activity Center. It's been packed for the most of the games. I mean, last week, or on Saturday, was right at the start of spring break, and I didn't think very many students would come out, and it was a lot more full than I expected.
Yeah, it was great, and it's such a good advantage for us to have the support that we have here. We'll play in a lot of junior college gyms that have nobody in it, and so we're super lucky to have a community that's, really, I think they feel a part of this team, and I think this team really resonates with our community in the toughness that they have and the unselfishness in which they play. I definitely, that our community is definitely that way as far as tough people that work really hard, but also care about each other. And I think our guys kind of emulate that.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. The atmosphere in this gym is phenomenal. But so you guys have finished the season 29-1, like I mentioned. That's a school record for the most wins in the regular season, finished on a 22-game winning streak. That's also the longest winning streak in school history. How have you guys been able to maintain that type of consistency, especially on the road?
I just say it's kind of our approach. Obviously we have really talented players, and that a bunch of them are getting recruited and so forth. But I'd say our approach and preparation for each game is huge. I think being aware of the fact that we can lose any game that we play brings a certain amount of humility to, yeah, we can lose this one too. You know what I mean? And so our guys have the focus to be able to continually work. And I think it really shows in our practices, especially here in late in the year when, a lot of people are running out of juice. I think our guys are really, have a fun time playing together. And so those are probably the biggest things I'd say that contribute to the consistency is that A, our guys really love playing together, and then B, their consistent approach to get better as a team and individually for them to work on their games is something that's really helped us. And I think we were in a similar spot last year as far as a very successful start of the year. We were ranked as high as 5th in the country. We got into league. We were tied for 2nd through the first round of league, and then we kind of hit some hard times, didn't get better, didn't improve, and we struggled down the stretch. And so I think that was a big change for our guys this year is they've really embraced the grind of trying to become better individually and as a team, and hopefully we can keep that going here, right? We just hit March, and we can play all the way into the end of March if we want to.
Yeah, you mentioned that your players love playing together. You've only got 4 returning sophomores. Everybody else is new to the team. How have you guys been able to build team chemistry in the way that it has helped you play on the court? Because when I watch these games, it's super evident that the team, everybody is rooting for each other individually and together, and I think it helps you guys play really well. So how have you kind of built that type of team chemistry?
Yeah, I'd say helping them understand that no question we will only go individually as far as we can collectively work together as a team. And so, there are so many talented players out there that aren't able to put it together on a team that does something special. And if you don't do that, you usually miss your future opportunities as an individual player. And so helping them kind of grasp that, look, no, really when Ike Finlinson is player of the week, that's a win for Coleman Ford. And when, Sean Feltz is player of the game, that's a win for Aaron Bliss. And helping them kind of grasp that and it really starts with our leadership. Like our captains really emulate that well. Isaac Garrett's getting a ton of recruiting, but he's always one of the first ones to celebrate when somebody else gets some recruiting offers. Coleman Ford, obviously, kind of like we talked about on sophomore night, is just he's embraced a role where he's come off the bench a bunch this year as a sophomore, which, for many sophomores, that would be super hard pill to swallow, and he does not care 1 second. He wants to win the game. And that type of mentality becomes contagious where, like, if any guy starts feeling sorry for themselves, like, what the heck, because everybody else is sacrificing to do something special. And so I think that's really kind of where that's come from, that unselfishness of loving to play together. And what they find is when that happens is they play even better than they could just by themselves. Is they get easier shots because other guys are being successful. They'll get open shots. And so, like, that's a synergistic thing that happens in basketball. If guys can commit to playing with that kind of unselfishness, it always comes back and helps them.
Yeah, I mean, it's helped you guys hold the #1 ranking since December 16th, I believe, is when that poll came out, and you've had the #1 offense in the country for weeks now. And so going into this week, you're hosting the Scenic West Athletic Conference tournament here in this gym. What is the message that you're sending to your players this week during practice and going up to the game?
Yeah, probably just more of the the continuing to embrace getting better. There's stuff from our last 2 games, and we watched the film of it, where we didn't do as well as we could in certain aspects. And that's the great part about this game is, like, at the end of the day, it gets all summed up into a W or an L, but it doesn't even come close to capturing all of the details that are happening in a game. And so our guys embracing the fact that, like, hey, let's learn from the stuff that didn't go well in this last game. Let's apply it and take another step. And if we continue to do that, each game we learn and get better. I mean, we're playing Salt Lake for the 4th time. So, like, there's so much that we can learn from what we've played against them in the past and how we played as a team in this last two games. And so that's kind of the messaging for our guys is at the end of the day, it's still just another game. It's still 40 minutes long. You're playing an opponent, and you definitely don't want to change that approach as far as, like, hey, we got to go do something special or reinvent the wheel. It's like, no, it's can we be the best that we can be at the stuff that we know how to do well as a team, and then continue to add little improvements that will ultimately, hopefully, take you where you want to go.
Yep, and you guys are well on your way to going where you want to go. It's been a phenomenal season watching you, covering you. Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome into Inside Badger Hoops. Ira Bowman and JC Rockhill with you as always, except we're in the gym, JC. We're at the Horne Activity Center main gym where the Snow College men's basketball team finished the regular season with 2 pairs of wins, beating CSI and North Idaho here at home to finish 29-1 on the regular season, finished with a 22-game winning streak. Those 29 wins is the most in a regular season in Snow College men's basketball history. And the 22 wins is the longest winning streak in Snow College men's basketball history. So it's been a phenomenal year for Coach May in his 3rd year.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt when you look at this team on paper, it's no doubt the best team in the nation. But I also want to focus a little bit more on the games last week. I mean, those were some gritty and grinding games, especially the game on Saturday against North Idaho.
Yeah, it really was. The Badgers won 78-71, a 7-point victory against North Idaho on Saturday. The first time North Idaho came in and played here, I believe the score was 77-70, I think, and the Badgers won a 7-point game there. And then on Thursday against CSI, they came in here and the Badgers won 85-63 after a really close first half.
Yep. And it was just a truly grit and grind game, no doubt. Like, obviously, the superstars for Snow College, they obviously shined a lot. Isaac Garrett, despite I think he fouled out in North Idaho game, which was obviously tragic for the team overall. But no doubt this is a high-depth team. We've gone into it a lot. You have guys like Aaron Bliss and Sean Phelps coming off the bench. So no doubt a grit and grind team that can really get the job done regardless of who fouls out and who's going to come in for them.
Yeah. The Badgers won that game, as I said, 85-63. Isaac Garrett in the CSI game finished with 22 points and 12 rebounds. I believe that was his 3rd or 4th double-double in a row. He's had a number of double-doubles the past few weeks, played phenomenally well, and the team shot 8 for 19 from the three-point line. And that 19 number is honestly below the total of what the Badgers normally shoot here at home. But still making 8 on less attempts is very impressive.
Yep, no doubt.
And then on Saturday, the Badgers got that 78-71 win. As I mentioned, you talked about Isaac Garrett. He played 14 minutes in that game and fouled out in that second half. He picked up 3 in the first half. It was a very wild and physical game here at the Horne Activity Center on Saturday night.
Yep, definitely, and it does make the situation more difficult for the officials as well. Like, they definitely had some calls that were controversial, but also very fair at the same time. But yeah, I think North Idaho came out, showed out as well, really took it to the #1 team in the nation. But in my opinion, this is only going to motivate the Badgers to be even better than they were, especially if North Idaho is coming back for the Region 18 tournament.
Yep, North Idaho and CSI will be back here for the Region 18 tournament, except they will be playing against each other in the first game on Friday. That one will be at 5 p.m. on Snow TV on the Scenic West Athletic Conference Network. You can watch it there, where myself and JC will have the call for that one, so tune in for that. And Isaac Finlinson, who won Scenic West Athletic Player of the Week, as Coach May mentioned in our interview, 24 points in this game, 4 rebounds. He played phenomenally well and was a consistent player on offense for the Badgers during the game. It wasn't, a 15-point stretch where he just completely took over, but he was just consistently scoring throughout the whole game, and it was a really big bright spot for Coach May in that physical ball game.
Yep, no doubt, and he really picked his shots well, and he really made them when he had to as well. Like the shots that really took back a bit of momentum for the Badgers and really helped them on defense in the transition as well.
Yeah, he really did. So with that, the Badgers, as I mentioned, Region 18, the Scenic West Athletic Conference regular season champions. They will be hosting the tournament here on Friday and Saturday. That's March 7th and 8th. So come out and watch that. And if you can't come out and watch, then tune in and listen or watch the games on Snow TV and the Scenic West Athletic Conference Network for both the CSI North Idaho game and the Snow College versus Salt Lake Community College game late Friday night. Now, moving on to the women's, we'll get back to the tournament here in a minute and give you a preview, but let's recap the women's team real quick and what they did. So they, coming into Thursday against CSI, they were on a 6-game winning streak, playing very well, a good number of those games on the road. In fact, the only one that wasn't here, or that wasn't on the road, was at home against Colorado Northwestern, and the Lady Badgers came out, played very well until that fourth quarter and a little bit struggled. If the Lady Badgers going into this game had won, they would have had a chance to host the Region 18 tournament had they won all 3 of their last games. But they dropped the first one to CSI, and then in order to make the tournament after losing the first one on Saturday, they have to beat both NIC, which they did, and we'll get to that, and then beat Salt Lake tomorrow afternoon here at the Horne Activity Center.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched those games, like, it was truly against CSI, like you mentioned, it was truly just a pull away for CSI. I think the Badgers' fatigue factor really came in, and just the fact that CSI really made adjustments to shut them down. They really got their superstars rolling, I think, in the fourth quarter, and not just the superstars. They also got their bench players going as well around the perimeter. They were really dishing out the ball very well, and the Badgers just looked very overwhelmed.
Yep, that fourth quarter was a little bit of a struggle for the Badgers, but they played well the entire first 3 quarters. It was almost like a mirror game of the first time CSI came and played here. The Badgers, it was a 1-point game going into the fourth quarter, and then they kind of fell apart. But the good news is they bounced back and rebounded very, very well against North Idaho. So after an 81-68 loss to CSI, they come back and beat North Idaho 65-59 on this floor at the Horne Activity Center. What was your takeaway from that game, JC?
My biggest takeaway from that game is the fact that the Badgers were really consistent throughout the whole game, like the fact that they were all 4 quarters in and out. There were a lot of moments where I thought North Idaho was going to do what CSI did, sort of pull away from it, but the Badgers, so far in conference play, in the second half of conference play, to be more specific, have really been a team that never say die, and they've really been the team that have really utilized the talent that they have, both in the paint, and we saw a lot more 3-point shooting this week from players like Pennington, also Hosina, she took a lot of threes, Hawakarangi.
Malia Elliott hit a good number of them in the CSI game as well.
Yep, so it was no doubt an all-around team effort game, and I was very impressed with how they were to pull this one out.
Yep, Badgers won 65-59, and they in the CSI game, Ayanna Bay finished with 15 points, Brooke Pennington had 14 points in the CSI game to lead the team. I believe she was one of 2 double-digit scorers. In the North Idaho game, however, it was Ayanna Bay with 15 points and Hawakarangi with 14 points. And look, when we watched this Badger team at the beginning of the year, it was the team goes as the guards go. Yeah. And we've kind of seen a transition here a little bit late in the season where the team kind of goes as Ayanna Bay and Hawakarangi go on offense. It's not to say that they're the only reliable piece of offense, because Malia Elliott, Brooke Pennington, Suga Turaga, everybody else on this team plays very well on the offensive end, but lately we've started to see a lot more offensive production in the scoring column from Hawaii Rangi and Iona Bay.
Yep, no doubt. And it's really been a paint-first style of team, which I'm obviously a fan of. You know, you've known me for a long
Yep.
time. I really enjoy the paint-first offense, but I also really enjoy it when the point guards take people off the dribble and are able to find their centers.
Yeah, and that's what's happened. I mean, Brooke Pennington played very well in this game. Malia Elliott played very well against North Idaho. They were able to lead the team from that guard position, and the offense looked way more composed in that North Idaho game than it did against CSI.
Yep, no doubt.
Now, moving on for the women, if they want to make the Scenic West Athletic Tournament, they have to beat Salt Lake Community College here at home tomorrow afternoon. There was a little bit of a weird bit with the scheduling where this game got pushed back to tomorrow night at 5 p.m. here at the Horne Activity Center. Lady Badgers, if they win, I believe jump up to the second seed in the conference tournament, and if they lose, they're out.
Yeah.
So that's really gives you an idea how close these standings are in the Region 18 women's tournament.
Yeah, definitely standings that I've really only seen once in my life, if I'm being honest with you. And I think the mentality for the Badgers going into this game on Wednesday, it's a win or go home.
It is.
Obviously, like it's a high-pressure situation, but you can't go into that game thinking that. Like you have to go in thinking that this is just another game and that you have a very high chance of winning because they beat Salt Lake the last time in Salt Lake nonetheless as well.
Yeah.
So I think in this game, the Badgers just have to execute absolutely everything to perfection if they want to really pull away with this game. But in terms of keeping it close, they really have to rely on what they did last week. Really don't let the team get any more momentum, strike back in the transition offense, and to get a stop on the defense.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that you mentioned how the Badgers won at Salt Lake. I was at that game, but the first conference game in the season, the Lady Badgers played at Salt Lake and lost by over 20 points, I believe. So to wait for almost a month and a half to play them again at Salt Lake again, and then come out with a win really shows the improvement that this team has made after starting 1-5 in conference play.
Yeah.
And now moving up to 8-6 in conference play. So right now they've won 7 out of their last 8 games, 7-1. It's been very impressive to watch. And the Lady Badgers looking to reach that Scenic West Athletic Conference tournament with the number 2 seed this week. JC, what are going to be some keys? You talked about how in the North Idaho game they were really paint first, but they've also been shooting more threes the last few games than they have on a regular basis in the previous few games. So what are going to be some keys for the Lady Badgers to get another home win in conference play where they've struggled at times?
Yep. Well, the first key to this game that I really want to emphasize is don't turn the ball over as much because they really struggled with it at home last week. It really resulted in that loss against CSI. Those turnovers, especially in the second half, really plagued them a lot. But the second key to this game is be prepared for what the defense is going to show you. North Idaho on Saturday really showed a lot of zone defense, and the Badgers struggled against that immensely. So I think for Coach Zoo, it's definitely dropped some plays that she knows is going to work against that defense, excuse me.
Yeah.
And the Badger offense just has to execute it.
Yeah, well, and in that fourth quarter, Coach Zoom did make some adjustments, and they really beat that zone, and that's what allowed them to pull away with the victory in that North Idaho game. So being able to have those adjustments ready pregame, like you said, I think is going to be big time because I don't know if Salt Lake's going to come out in zone or man-to-man or whatever it is, but having multiple plays and type offensive sets that you can run against different defensive coming into this game after struggling against a zone on Saturday, I think is very important, like you mentioned.
Yep, no doubt. And the third key to this game for me is definitely get your superstars rolling a lot more. In the first half, we didn't really see a lot from Pennington against CSI a lot of the time. Malia Elliott, she did come in the clutch over the weekend on Saturday, but I definitely think she needs to get rolling, not getting in the foul trouble because she was in foul trouble against North Idaho, I believe.
Yep.
She had 3 in the first half, so definitely play clean on defense and make sure the superstars don't get in foul trouble.
All right, quickly before we move on to the Region 18 tournament.
Yeah.
Queen of the Court from this past week.
That's a very tough choice because obviously you mentioned Iona Bay and Hawaii who had double-digit points, but I kind of got to go with Brooke Pennington. It's been a while since we've really called her name as the Queen of the Court, and I'm looking at this on paper. Obviously, double-digit points, 14 points against CSI, and also 7 rebounds from the point guard position. I think that's the main reason I want her as Queen of the Court is just because she is a point guard, and being able to get 7 rebounds in a game is very impressive.
She played very well on all facets of the game on Saturday. She did also on Thursday as well, but had a little bit of a bigger impact in the win on Saturday than on Thursday. So I can agree with you there on that one. All right, now let's move into the Region 18 tournament. Friday, CSI versus North Idaho here on this floor. JC and I will be on the call for that, and that should be a phenomenal game. We've seen both of these teams play here at the Horne Activity Center twice this year against the Badgers. All of those games have been very fun to watch. The North Idaho games were a little bit closer than the CSI games, but that should be a very fun one here at 5 p.m.
Yep, no doubt. It's going to be a really fun one because you have CSI, who's been in and out of the top 25 rankings, and then you got North Idaho, who is a very physical team. And I personally think if North Idaho comes out the way they did against the Badgers on Saturday, I think they're going to come out with this one.
They're a very long and tall and lengthy team, not to mention have the second leading scorer in the country in Vaughn Williams.
Exactly, and they also have very dynamic point guards that really gave Mark Brown the business on Saturday. So I really think that this North Idaho team is the one that's going to come away with this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mark Brown gave it right back to him. He crossed,
he did.
crossed North Idaho
That he
defender
did.
right over right there.
Yep, and that's what we've seen all season from Mark Brown. Even in the controversial moments where he's being, say, guarded very well, he's typically the one that gives the spark and typically makes a play on the other end and then goes and gets the ball on the offensive end and makes the play as well.
He did that very well in the win at Odessa early in the year.
Yep.
When the Badgers got a ranked win at Odessa College, he had 32 points, I believe, in that one. Went 15 of 16 or 16 of 16 from the free throw line in that game.
Yep.
So, yeah, Mark Brown Jr. knows how to give the other teams a business, to
Yep,
put
no
it in
doubt.
your words.
And he's going to need to give Salt Lake the business in this week because they're also a very physical team, very relatable to North Idaho. So I think Mark Brown Jr., he's going to play dynamically against Salt Lake, and he's really going to be looking to dish the ball out to his centers as well, especially if he takes other guards off the dribble and takes it into the driving lane. He has to be prepared to dump it off to his guy like Isaac Garrett or Lemke or Sean Feltz. He's going to be ready for that. I think he's going to be very dynamic this week.
Yep, and I mean, you talk about that. The Badgers have played Salt Lake 3 times already this year, and as Coach May mentioned in our interview, he really he put an emphasis on the fact that they've played them 4 times, or that this will be the 4th time that they've played them. And it's hard to beat a team twice. It's harder to beat them 3 times. It's even harder to beat them 4 times because you get so familiar with each other. And in the first one, the Badgers won at CSI 77-76, or not at CSI, excuse me, at Salt Lake 77-76 with a missed buzzer beater 3. I believe it was Bendinger that missed it. And then here at the Horne Activity Center, it was a thriller. The Badgers won 91-86 in overtime. That one was stressful to watch, but also very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
And then in the second game at Salt Lake, it was probably the most complete game from Coach May's team from start to finish, with a 14-point win in that one. The Badgers won that one 84-70. And so the lowest points that the Badgers allowed Salt Lake to score in all 3 of their matchups. What do you think are going to be some of the keys for the Badgers to be able to do that type of thing again? I mean, I mentioned they played a full game against Salt Lake in the third one. They've played each other 3 times. They know each other. Xavier Edmonds is one of the best players in the country right now, the top-ranked JUCO sophomore in the country in terms of Division I recruiting.
Right.
So it's going to be a big challenge to play the Bruins for a 4th time.
Yep, no doubt. And I'm going to open up with that as the first key of the game. You got to lock down Xavier Edmonds because the last game you played here, you dropped 37 points and missed the game-winning shot that would have won it. Didn't send it to overtime. And I think the biggest thing is locking down him, especially when you go against it the same defensively that you did the last time. You have Chance Trujillo, who is obviously not the tallest guy when compared to Xavier Edmonds, but he's also a physical and very strong player, and I think that's why he played so dynamically against him. And then you also have Lemke, who also went a lot of one-on-ones against Edmonds and was able to help out immensely. So I think go the same way defensively against Xavier Edmonds is the first key. The next key is execute everything on offense the same way you've been doing all year. Just treat it like it's another game out there for you. But the third key to this one is have the mentality that this is 2 teams, similar styles, only one survivor.
Couldn't have phrased it any other way. Winner of the CSI North Idaho game moves on to the championship game on Saturday at 3 p.m. Winner of Salt Lake and Snow, all the S's and C's are messing with my tongue today. But Snow, Salt Lake, Friday, 7:30 p.m. here at the Horne Activity Center. Winner will move on to play the winner of CSI North Idaho at 3 p.m. on Saturday. We've got a loaded week. Women's game tomorrow, 2 games Saturday, 1 game or 2 games Friday, 1 game Saturday. It's going to be an exciting week here for Badger basketball.
Yep, no doubt. An exciting spring break.
A very exciting spring break, and I'm very curious to see how many students and how much of the community will come out. I mean, I'm sure the community will come out because they've come out all year, like Coach May had said on the in our interview. But how many students are going to come out is my big question.
That is a big question, honestly. I know my roommate, he's going to be here. He'll probably be the biggest fan. He'll be sporting all of his Snow College merch and everything.
Can't wait to see it. So for everyone watching this before those games on the tournament this week, come out, show out, and be loud for the Badger basketball team, both tomorrow night for the women and then both on Friday and hopefully on Saturday.
Yep.
Thank you very much for watching this week's special edition of Inside Badger Hoops with Coach Andrew May here at the Horne Activity Center gym, where the Snow College men's basketball team has had a historic season, one of the best in program history, if not the best, with the records that they've set. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you all have a great night, evening, whatever it is.